Namaste, beloveds. This is I Am. This is the Rose of Sharon, and this is very deep. What I'm getting ready to share. It's been a combination of many different things that's been happening in the last couple of days that have become so apparent in my mind's eye. I'll put it that way. And I'm just going to start where I began. And this particular essence that I'm reading right now actually began the day after yesterday or yesterday. And I'm just going to get into it. And it's very deep. And it may trigger some things. But I ask you to ground yourself before watching it. And I'm asking you to listen with a very open mind and asking you to understand that this is the state that many of us have encountered along the way. And it is asking you to look at the truth of your existence, to look at the truth of all you have known, and to understand where it all comes from and what it all means. And so this is what it is, beloveds. And it is the mystery that is my story. So I'm sharing it with you because we are one. And just as this is my story, it is your story as well. Different versions of it, but the same story. Same tale. Okay, here we go. As I went back and watched several of the other recent videos, the words sadistic mind and masochistic slave identity keeps echoing, keeps surfacing, keeps confronting me, and it is relentless. So I faced it, and I asked it, what did it want to give me? See, it's not there to persecute you. It's not there to punish you. It's there to gift you with something. And you have to be unafraid of what that gift is. And you have to understand that the gift that you're receiving is part of your physical death. And not be afraid of that. Because on the other side of that death is rebirth, is the afterlife. And so you have to be willing to face that. And what you are facing is your deepest truth. And here we go. This is how it came. What do you want of me? And what was given or what came forward is which or who or what or when or why or how was the first sadistic mind and masochistic self-identity that you ever encountered. For me, this is how the answer came forth. In your mother's womb was the first time you encountered this consciousness. Your mother's sadistic mind and your mother's sadistic mind full of chaos. Your mother's masochistic, pain-filled slave identity. This is why you are not afraid of her crazy. Many feared and loved my mother. I just loved her. I never feared her. No matter what she did, how she looked at me, what she threatened me with, how she beat me or hurt me, or manipulated me or used me. I guess having encountered that part of her before being born, I was aware of it, that it was there, and I knew how cunning and sadistic she could be because of it. Example, and there are many, but I'm just giving one. Example, my mother's friend gave me a pet rabbit with a cage. My mother told me I could not keep it in her house. I could keep it in the garage, thanks to my daddy's intervening. I had the rabbit for a while, feeding her, cleaning her cage, taking her out and playing with her after school. And one day, I came home. My daddy was working late, and the cage was empty. And my mother told me the rabbit had died. I knew that things die. It made me sad. Later that night when my daddy got home and we were all called to come and eat, my mother had killed my rabbit, knocked it on the head with my daddy's hammer from his toolbox in the garage, skinned it, quartered it, and fried it for dinner, and expected me and all of us to sit down and eat it, as she was doing. First, she lied and said, when I put up a fuss, of course, and told her, she accused her of killing my rabbit. First, she lied and said she had found it and it was dead, and she wasn't going to waste no food because it was my pet. Then my daddy, going to remove the cage, saw his toolbox open. He inspected it and knew and confronted her. They went into the bedroom to talk. And that was that incident. There were many incidents where I would be sleeping, and she would come and drag me out of bed and make me get into the bathtub. And the bathtub would be either of scalding hot water or freezing cold water. And if I hesitated, I was beaten until I got in. And just railed at and had to listen to her and everything while I was there. There were other times where she would put baby oil in the tub and just beat me. How can you're slipping and falling and bumping and bruising. This is what the sadistic mind of my mother was. She was the masochistic slave of her mind. And let me keep going because, as you know, just recently I was told that my mother was not abusing me, that my mother was not crazy, that she was preparing me. I have been bullied as a young child by family and those who I thought were my friends. I have been molested and raped twice. That energy came from sadistic minds and masochistic slave identities to that mindset. Just like mine, all with their own wounded inner child or children, just like my own sadistic mind and masochistic self. Please understand this. I got my sadistic mind from my mama with my wit and my mouth and my strength and my will. I am and can be a ruthless, cold-blooded snake, inflicting venom with each katana strike with a deep pleasure and satisfaction that I call my righteous indignation. Because I only use it like a masochistic slave when my master consciousness, known as my own sadistic mind, has rendered judgment. By the laws of the universe, you reap what you sow, and like attracts like, and karma is a bitch. And depression, worrying, outbursts of extreme anger, and then suffering the guilt and shame, being told all the while, you don't fit in, you're different, wanting to fade away, wanting to be alone, living in your stupid fantasy worlds, because you are crazy, just like your mother. You're fat, you're lazy, you're stupid, and nobody loves you. Your own mother hates you. This is how the sadistic mind trains you, conditions you, enslaves you, as it becomes you, as it beckons you inside its trap or gilded cage. And you become a true believer, a slave, a faithful and devoted reflection of everything it says. And at least you have it, even if you have nothing or nobody else. Some individuals have psychotic breakdowns. Some become despondent. Some become violent. Some turn to addictive behaviors. Some bully. Some even commit suicide because of their own reactions, feelings, and thoughts of their own sadistic mind, and the shame and guilt of being its masochistic slave willingly. You listen to it. You can't stop. You get and are afraid to jump off this merry-go-round no matter how fast or how slow it goes. You just keep hanging on, not realizing you are the one who empowers it. You're the one spinning it and keeping it moving in motion, no matter how fast, no matter how slow. You are the battery of it. It, without you, can't move. Till one day, you are 53 years old and you have hit your rock bottom once again. And instead of listening to your sadistic mind, you are led to a stillness like you had not known since you were a young child. And you remember how not to be triggered by your sadistic mind. the detachment you used with your mother, the detachment you used with the bullies, with the molester, with the rapist, and every other thing that you needed to escape or disappear from, or just not be there, to just be numb and empty, to be not in your body, but to watch and be present, and to know that you were watching and you were above it all. And it was happening to your flesh body, but not you. That silent, still place of peace and unconditional love. And you are so happy that you have found it again. While at the same moment, you realize it was always there. You just chose the noise. You just chose the chaos. You just chose the dream of being the enslaved identity of your own sadistic mind as reality. And this reality is supported by everything that you have encountered. Everybody else is suffering. Everybody else is being bullied. You're an empath. You feel it in everybody. You feel the pain. You feel it. Feel it in your mother. You feel it in your father. You feel it as racial division. You feel it as tension of being poor. You feel it for being a girl instead of a boy. You feel it no matter what. You feel it because you live in the north and not the south. You feel it. And so you take it to be the truth of what reality is, even though you've experienced this place that watches, but is not affected as your physical self is. But no one has taught you what this place is. And when you talk about this place to others, that's of the other world. We don't talk about that. You're crazy if you talk about that. People will say you're crazy. You're fantasizing. It's all in your mind. You're disassociating with reality. This is the medical diagnosis. You have multiple personalities. You have split. You have fragmented. Soul retrieval. Other people have parts of your soul. You have to go and get them back and integrate them. You just have to remember who you are. That you are more than this flesh. Let me keep going. Instead of being filled with complete surrender to the inner, after manifesting peace of I am, who left a light on just for you to find your way back home. Let me read that again. To not be triggered by your sadistic mind, you remember the detachment you used with your mother. The bullies, the molester, the rapist, and every other thing you needed to escape or disappear or just not be there or be numb or be empty of or to be separate from. That silent, still place of peace and unconditional love that you have always called home, that you have always felt was the presence of the great mother of God, God itself. And you are so happy that you have found it again, because we think we lose it. The last 3 years have been hell. And in that last 3 years, I had forgotten. I had been so caught up with this mind, so this my own sadistic mind, my own need to suffer, my own need to play out these roles, my own need to be my mother. And you are so happy that you have found it again, while at the same time you realize it was always there. You just chose the noise, chaos, and drama of being the enslaved identity of your own sadistic mind and masochistic self-identity, instead of being filled with the complete surrender to the inner and outer manifesting peace of I am, who left a light on just for you to find your way back home. And that is what I wrote yesterday. And then today, this is what I woke up with. I am the I of I am that I am, the rose of Sharon. There is nothing new under the sun, and all is vanity. We give birth to many different versions of ourselves. I was taken to my own 2 pregnancies, my emotional states with both. The natures of my children, both balanced and unbalanced, reflect my own sadistic mind and masochistic knowing of myself. At that time, they were in utero inside of me. Like I said, these past 3 years, it's been about my children, my relationships with my children, my relationship with myself. And in understanding, I was a teenage mom with my daughter. I had to leave home. I was in a home for unwed mothers because my own mother told me she was going to beat that little bastard baby up out of me. And I was no, this is my child. And I have loved you and I have allowed you to do what you want to me. But you will not touch this child. You will not. And I knew I could not stay there because I knew that she would try. And I knew I would kill her. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, baby. None. Because that is a mother's instinct. That is a mother's knowing. So I left. And I stayed in a home for unwed mothers run by Catholic nuns in another city. After I gave birth to my daughter, During that time, her father, the first man that I had ever loved, my first love, who had my virginity outside of being molested, said this was not his child. So heartbroken from this, heartbroken from my mother, my father being dead, this is the mind that my daughter encountered in utero. This is the reasons for these past 3 years. And now I understand so much more. And the mind cannot persecute me. You're a bad mother. You're just like your own mother, no matter what you think. Your own daughter doesn't love you. She loves you and she doesn't love you. This is the sins of the parents, the mother and father. And so my daughter is prone to panic attacks. My daughter is who she is because of what she encountered in the womb. My son is who he is because of what he encountered in the womb. With my son, I was very happy. I didn't even know I was pregnant until I was 5 months in. I knew, but it hadn't been confirmed. I'll put it that way. I'd gone to a doctor and the doctor told me no. And during the sex act itself, I felt myself getting pregnant. I didn't feel that with my daughter, but with my son, I felt it. I felt that sperm moving. I felt that egg. I felt it. I felt it. And I felt it and I was happy. And this father, his father, loved me. His father wanted to be there. It was a whole different pregnancy. During his pregnancy, people told me I glowed. I was active. And the drama was what it was, of course, and I'm not getting into that, but it makes me understand, like I said, my children so much more. And to understand that what is in the womb is there for generations. So what I encountered went past my mother. It was my grandmother and my great-grandmother and way before then. And that is why I'm able to sit here now and tell you I encounter our sect. And I am the Rose of Sharon. And I am this and I am that. Because it is through each of these wombs, through each of these worlds, through each of these women, through each of their one songs, their universes, that I am connecting and reconnecting what has always been. This is not new. We have just forgotten because we've turned away from the inside, the intuition. And we give more credit to the illusion and to the lies we've been told. Let me keep going. The tales they are giving and Watership Down came to mind. And that is the tale of the rabbits and understanding what rabbit symbolizes and the lore of rabbits, even from Africa. With my father used to read me Aesop's fables and Uncle Remus, Brer Rabbit. I watched Bugs Bunny, and here we have Watership Down, and we have the tale of what my mama did to my own rabbit. Coincidence? Synchronicity? And then there was a climactic piece as well with a photo of a rabbit, cute little white bunny, and a wolf getting ready to pounce on her. And then the bottom half of it, you see that the bunny has devoured the wolf because the bones of the wolf are there. So the bunny ate the wolf did not eat the bunny. Who knew how symbolic that would be? Who knew the messages and the depth that it would represent for me right now? How many stories do we have of wolves? The nature and everything that it represents, the noble wolf. I myself, one of my guides is Spirit of White Wolf. I identify very deeply with that energy. But I also identify very deeply with the energy of the rabbit. And when you come to the knowing that you are all, you are not separate, you understand that wolf spirit, that bunny spirit, that jaguar spirit, that elephant spirit, that hawk spirit, that jackass set spirit is there as well. And you just have to know how to navigate. From the one came many, baby. From wisdom came every kind of logic in existence. The trees were here first, then the animals. And before that, the suns and the moons and the stars and the so forth and the planets and the blah, 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 blah. That is why we say nothing is new under the sun. And all of it is vanity. All of it is a chasing of your own tail. And what is that tail? What is that called? The moral of the story. What is the moral of your story? You are God. You are every character in there. From the one came the many. And the many return back to the one. Let me keep going. The photo of the bunny devouring the wolf is symbolic of awakened consciousness, transcending the sadistic mind and the masochistic identification of itself. Blew me away. Still blowing me away. I watched Black Earth Rising yesterday on Netflix. And so many more things, such as my own process, journey, revolution, cycle, season, and age, was again revealed to me. Kate, who is the main character, is my ka. Returned home with a scrap of fabric that symbolized her true identity, her bloodline, that which she had known on a psychological, instinctive level, versus the loving lies of everyone she loved and trusted, as well as those she did not. The bottom line was that woven piece of fabric. It were the threads that had woven her physical existence. And it was with the unification and re-identification of what was found in Earth herself was the truth found. And this truth was so pure and so powerful that it liberated many. And even when she felt she was alone, she never was. There were always spirit guides leading her and protecting her, no matter the tool slash being that was used. No matter what situation occurs, stay true to your instinctual identification, that identification of peace, that identification of observance, that identification of home, that identification is you are God. Everything in and of creation was nourished by its mother's womb, and all the waters that existed within, be it the waters themselves or the waters slash blood being infused by the umbilicus. This is symbiotic of your I am, the fetus slash being fed and connected to pure consciousness, and the waters outside. There are waters inside that little fetus. And there are waters outside of that little fetus. The waters outside echoing chaos, the many forms of chaos found outside of that consciousness, as well as the living waters within, reflecting the pure consciousness. So, thus the seemingly duality. And when that fetus has developed into an infant and is born, the cord is cut. And the connection is now presented as choice. You are no longer inside the waters that buffer you, but allow you to be empathetic enough to the outside that you feel it, you hear it, you sense it, you get an awareness of it. And you still are connected with that pure divine consciousness. and you're here, born into this world. And now the conscious connection is presented as choice. Which is your true reality? Chaotic limitations resulting in further separation from your true home consciousness? Or do you choose to reconnect with that had no beginning and has no ending? That which nourished you. Which of these two wolves do you feed? Which tail do you grasp in your transcendence and ascendance over the sadistic mind and the masochistic self-identity? You can either transcend and ascend into pure consciousness by accepting you are God, or by accepting you are the sadistic mind and the masochistic self-identity in this physical world where you create your reality to support your own knowing, your own evolution, your own revolution. What you choose, either way, you are still God. And you will manifest along with your collective, your reality, the world/womb. What is the earth but water? What is your body but water? Womb, world, womb. In which your I am gets to play its most pure self in whatever role you choose or you deem is the identity that you're going with, or finding the perfect balance. Knowing there can only be one true identity, that of God, which is wisdom personified in all and nothing, and from this truth, everything is born. Now, I take you to the movie The Passion of Christ, the scene where his cross had become too much for him to carry alone, for him to bear, up to Golgotha, the place of skulls. The place of skulls. What does the skull represent? And in this moment, he was provided with someone to carry it for him. And this being represented the Holy Spirit. The cross, his convictions upon which he would be nailed to, this earth identity of separation from which he must die and sacrifice himself in order to be reborn, resurrected, returned, restored, reconnected to his pure, true connection. From this place, I was reintroduced to the tale of Lilith, she who grew wings, she of the pure consciousness, who left Adam and mated with angels, others of pure consciousness, and who also, alongside Eve, populated the world, the earth, with her own children, one being Horus the Elder. This pure mother was demonized. This pure mother was demonized, as well as her children, and persecuted by the children of Adam and Eve. for a cycle, for a season, for a Yuga. And then Lilith Kali would transcend time, resulting in the freedom / the jubilee of her children, the Holy of Holies, the Kings of Kings, the Roses of Sharon, in a golden new dawn, beginning with the Aquarian age once again. And that is it, beloveds. And 45, 41. And like I said, this is blowing me away. And when I say it's blowing me away, it's blowing away the blinders. It's blowing away the scales. It's blowing away the fears. It's blowing away the lies. It's blowing away the identification of the person. It's blowing away just like that smoke when I was smoking. And I said, what? Huh? Okay. We'll go with it. It just like this smoke is my own sadistic mind and masochistic identification. And it's blowing away. It's blowing like the smoke. And because this has happened, it is no longer home. It, meaning that consciousness, meaning that knowledge, meaning that dream, meaning all that manifested stuff, meaning all that whole garden is something the mind imagined. And the mind is so sadistic. It holds on to those images as its truth. And it feeds you those images. And you have to get to the place where you believe that those images that the sadistic mind is feeding you is just like this smoke you see. It fades. And that there is an atmosphere present that witnesses the smoke and witnesses it fading away. And that is going to do it for this video. And I want to thank you very much for this and for sharing it with me. Namaste. Aho. Ashe, ashe, ashe. A sun, a moon, and the stars.